All right, let's dive into Rashmirathi. And this one's going to be a little different.
It is different.
Yeah, we're looking at a poem this time.
A poem.
Written in Hindi.
Originally, Hindi.
Published in 1952 in Patna, India. So if you don't speak Hindi, don't worry.
That's right.
We'll paint a picture for you with descriptions and some translated bits.
Exactly. And the poem's structure is really helpful for us for this deep dive.
Oh, okay.
Rashmirathi is split into 6 sections.
Okay.
Called sargas.
Sargas.
Which is Sanskrit for cantos, like chapters.
Gotcha.
Each one has its own kind of emotional arc that goes deeper into the story and the themes and all that.
So these sargas are like our roadmap then?
Yeah, exactly.
But what's the big picture here? What's Rashmirathi actually about?
Well, at its core, it's the story of Karna, the warrior from Hindu mythology.
Okay.
But it's not just an adventure tale. It uses Karna's struggles, his triumphs, to ask these really profound questions.
Like what?
Like about truth and justice going up against society's rules. The power of believing in yourself, even when fate seems to have other ideas.
Sounds pretty intense. Where do we even begin with something like that?
Well, the first sarg sets the scene. It starts with these amazingly vivid descriptions of nature.
Okay.
Peaceful, serene, which is almost a total opposite from what Karna's going through inside.
That's interesting. Why start with serenity if the main character is in turmoil?
I think it's a way to show us one of the poem's key ideas, the connection between what's going on inside us and the things outside that shape our lives. Think about it. How often does your mood change because of your surroundings? Or the other way around, where how you feel inside changes how you see the world?
Yeah, all the time. Now I'm going to be watching out for those moments when, like, my surroundings match or clash with what I'm feeling.
Exactly. And Rashmirathi makes you think about that all the way through. But let's get back to Karna.
Okay.
There's this one line from the first sarg, translated, of course, that really gets his struggle across. It says, "The sun was setting, painting the sky with hues of sorrow, and my heart, too, was sinking under the weight of its woes."
Wow, you can feel the weight of that even in translation. What are Karna's woes, though? Why is he so down?
So Karna's story is a complicated one. Even in Hindu mythology,
Right.
He's born with this divine armor, a sign of huge power and protection.
Okay.
But here's the thing. He's abandoned by his mother and raised by a charioteer, which puts him in a lower social class.
So he has all this potential, but he's held back by where he comes from.
Exactly. That becomes a major theme in the poem. Karna's fight isn't just about being a great warrior. It's about fighting a system that says he's nothing more than his birth.
That's got to resonate with a lot of people, even today, feeling held back or judged for things you can't control.
Absolutely.
I know, I've felt that way. Does the poem give any advice on how to deal with that?
Oh, yeah. As we go through the sargas, we'll see. Karna's journey becomes this powerful exploration of defining yourself and fighting for recognition when the world tries to put you in a box. But for now, it's important to understand this initial conflict he has. He wants something more to break free.
So we've got this internal conflict going on. Where does his story go from there?
Well, in the second sarg, that desire to be recognized finds a very specific outlet.
Oh.
He hears about this big tournament where young warriors can show off their skills, try to get noticed.
Sounds like the perfect opportunity for someone like Karna.
Right. And the poem really emphasizes how much he wants this. It describes the tournament as this blazing sun.
Okay.
That draws in these ambitious young warriors like moths to a flame.
Wow, you can almost feel that heat, that drive to prove yourself. But is it really just about glory and recognition, or is there something more to it?
That's a great question. And it gets to why Rashmirathi is so interesting. This tournament isn't just a physical fight.
Okay.
It's a symbol of Karna wanting to break free from his social standing. There's a line in the second sarg that captures this perfectly.
What is it?
"My heart, a caged bird, beat wildly against its bars, yearning for the open sky."
Oh, wow. You can feel his spirit wanting to take flight. I think everyone's felt that, that desire to break free and be themselves.
Absolutely. And in the third sarg, that yearning for freedom slams right into how rigid Karna society is. The tournament becomes a fight not just with swords, but with these deep-seated social rules.
Okay, now I really want to know what happens. What's it like when he enters the tournament? Are people impressed?
Well, he definitely makes an impact. But as you might guess, walking into a place dominated by the upper classes isn't easy.
Right.
Karna faces instant hostility from the other warriors. They can't see him as an equal. blinded by their prejudice about his birth.
So it's not just about winning, it's about overcoming those prejudices. What does he do? Does he back down?
Not a chance. Karna doesn't just show his skills, he challenges the whole idea of the social order.
Really?
He argues passionately that merit, your abilities, and character should be more important than your family line. It's a bold move, and it starts a debate that goes way beyond the tournament itself.
That's amazing. So you've got this clash of beliefs going on. What are the arguments against him, though? Why are they so resistant?
It comes down to blindly sticking to tradition. The established warriors believe that your family line is everything.
Okay.
That being born into a higher class makes you better, period. They see Karna's ideas as a threat to their whole world.
It's wild how a poem written so long ago can still be relevant to what we deal with today.
You tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And Rashmirathi doesn't shy away from how complicated it is. It forces you to think about how these social structures, even ones based on tradition, can hold people back and create inequality.
It makes you wonder, what was the poet trying to do? Start a revolution?
That's a question we'll keep exploring as we go deeper. But right now, let's not forget about Karna.
Yeah.
He's put himself out there, challenging a system that seems rigged against him. What do you think happens next?
I'm dying to know. Does he win them over? Does he prove his point?
Well, that's where things get even trickier. We'll get into the fallout from all this and what it means for Karna in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, can't wait.
Back again for more Rashmirathi. When we left off, Karna had just challenged the whole system, sparked this huge debate about merit versus lineage.
Yeah.
You were asking what happens next.
Yeah, it was intense. He put it all out there. So does he win? Does he get the recognition he wants?
And that's where the poem gets really deep about truth and justice and power.
Okay.
So even though Karna shows incredible skill, makes strong arguments, he doesn't win in the end.
Oh, no.
The judges, they're swayed by the prejudices of those other warriors, so they refuse to acknowledge him just because of where he comes from.
That's awful. It's just plain unfair. How does he take that?
Well, there's a line that sums it up perfectly. In the fourth sarg, it says, "The chariot of truth lies shattered, crushed beneath the wheels of deceit."
Wow.
It's like this powerful image of having your truth silenced by the people in charge, the ones who benefit from the system being rigged.
It's got to be crushing, like hitting a wall no matter what you do. I bet a lot of people can relate to that feeling of being held back by forces outside your control.
For sure. And while Rashmirathi doesn't sugarcoat Karna's disappointment, it does offer some hints about how to move forward.
Really?
Remember that sun motif we talked about?
Yeah, the sun was shining in the beginning.
Right. In the early sargas, it's like a symbol of hope and ambition. But as Karna hits these roadblocks, the way the sun's portrayed changes. We see more descriptions of the setting sun, often painted in these sad colors.
Oh, you're right. I remember those images now. It's like the sun's journey is mirroring Karna's. What do you think that means?
I think it's subtle,
Right.
but the poet might be using this imagery to say something about resilience and acceptance.
Hmm.
The setting sun, yeah, it shows loss and disappointment, but it also leads to a new day. It reminds us that even after the darkest times, things can get better.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. Gives you a bit of hope amidst all the sadness. So does this mean Karna gets back on his feet?
In a way, yes. But his journey takes an unexpected turn. The last two sargas, 5 and 6, they shift the focus. Instead of outward conflicts, we see Karna struggling with himself, trying to find acceptance and figure out who he really is.
So it's like the battlefield moves inside his mind. What brings about that change?
Well, partly it's because he realizes he can't change the whole system overnight. He's run into the limits of what he can do by trying to get approval from others.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a deeper level, too. The poem starts exploring destiny and free will. Remember, Karna's life is full of prophecies and curses, things that suggest he's on a preset path.
Oh, right. I'd almost forgotten about that. So is he just stuck with whatever fate has in store for him?
Not quite. That's what makes these later sargas so interesting. Karna might be bound by certain things, but he still has choices, actions he can take.
Okay.
The poem doesn't give us an easy answer about free will versus destiny. It's more about how those forces work together to shape our lives.
We're getting pretty philosophical here. How does the poem handle these big ideas?
Through a mix of things. Introspection, these philosophical discussions, and of course more powerful imagery. Like those setting sun descriptions.
Right.
In the later sargas, the setting sun gets another layer of meaning. It symbolizes time passing, mortality,
Yeah, the sun setting, it's like a reminder that our time is limited.
Yeah.
How does that tie into Karna's journey of self-discovery?
As he faces his own mortality, Karna starts questioning what it all means. You know, the achievements, the recognition, the worldly things.
Mm-hmm.
He realizes that real peace doesn't come from winning or proving himself to others.
That's deep. What leads him to that realization?
Well, a lot happens in these sagas. He has encounters with divine beings, moments of deep reflection.
Okay.
There's even a heartbreaking reunion with his birth mother.
Wow, a reunion. That must have been intense. What happens?
It's a crucial scene. His mother, Kunti, the one who abandoned him, she finally reveals herself and asks for forgiveness.
Oh, wow.
She even offers him a place with his brothers, the Pandavas.
Does he accept? Does he go with his family?
That's where Karna's loyalty comes in, and his strong sense of Dharma, which often means duty.
Dharma, right. We've heard that a few times. Can you explain it a bit more for those who aren't familiar with Hinduism? What does it mean here?
It's a big concept with lots of layers, but basically Dharma is the right way to live, the path that's in line with your moral obligations.
Okay.
It's about doing your duty, acting with integrity, and striving for a just and harmonious life.
So how does Dharma play into Karna's choice?
Karna believes his Dharma is to honor the loyalty and friendship he got from Duryodhana, the Kaurava prince, even though it means giving up his blood ties and the chance to be a prince himself.
That's a tough decision, but it really shows his character. It would have been easy to go with his brothers, finally get the recognition he wanted.
It would have, and it shows how strong Karna is. He chooses the right thing, even though it leads to tragedy. Remember, this is an epic poem, and like a lot of epics, there's a sense of fate and tragedy woven through it.
So knowing it leads to tragedy, does that make Karna a fool? Or is there a bigger meaning to what he does?
That's what the poem wants us to think about. On the surface, it might seem foolish, but through Karna's sacrifice, Rashmirathi explores the idea that being a hero isn't always about winning or personal gain. Sometimes it's about doing what's right, even if it brings you pain or loss.
That's pretty profound. It's like saying real fulfillment comes from sticking to your principles, not from worldly success. But knowing how it ends, it's hard not to feel sad for him. How does the poem handle his death?
It's a mix of sorrow and this feeling that it had to happen. Karna's death is shown as a heroic sacrifice, him fulfilling his Dharma.
Okay.
He dies on the battlefield, fighting for what he believes in, even though he knows he's going to lose.
A bittersweet ending, for sure. Does the poem offer any comfort, any hope in the face of all this?
In a way, yes. Remember that line from the end we talked about? Free from the shackles of desire, my soul soars high, embracing the vast expanse of the universe.
Right.
Even though Karna's physical journey ends tragically, his spirit finds a kind of freedom.
It's like his true self is finally released from the limitations of the world. His death becomes this transcendent moment. Makes you think about how even in loss there can be peace, even beauty.
Exactly. That brings us back to what the poem's really trying to say. Rashmirathi isn't just about one man's story. It's about everyone's experience of fighting injustice, wanting to be recognized, and ultimately finding meaning and purpose beyond achievements that fade away.
It's amazing that we can connect to that, even though it was written so long ago, in a completely different culture.
That's what great art does. It goes beyond time, language, culture, to speak to something universal in all of us.
Before we wrap up, anything else you think people should know about Rashmirathi and its impact?
One thing is that Rashmirathi isn't just a book on a shelf.
Right.
It's a huge part of Indian culture. It's been made into plays and movies and TV shows.
Wow.
People quoted in speeches, essays, and its themes still make people talk about social justice and Dharma.
That's pretty powerful. Why do you think it still resonates with people so much after all this time?
I think it's because it speaks to something deep inside us. We all want to be recognized, to prove ourselves, to make a difference in the world. Karna's story, even though it's based in myth and legend, it taps into those desires that we all have.
And it shows that even when things are tough, when the challenges seem impossible, we can still choose to do what's right, to act with integrity, and to leave a legacy that goes beyond our own lives.
Exactly. Rashmirathi is like an invitation to think about our own values, our struggles, and how we can make a positive impact.
It's been awesome exploring Rashmirathi with you. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and guiding us through this incredible poem.
It's been my pleasure. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've discovered something new about the power of Rashmirathi and what it still has to teach us.
Back for the final part of our Rashmirathi journey. You left us wondering what Karna decides, family or loyalty?
It's a choice that goes straight to the heart of who Karna is. And it really highlights this theme of Dharma, duty, doing the right thing.
We keep hearing that word Dharma. Could you break it down a little more for those of us who aren't super familiar with Hindu philosophy?
Oh yeah, it's a big idea, lots of layers. But at its core, Dharma is about the right way to live, following your moral obligations.
Okay.
It's about doing your duty, acting with integrity, trying to live a good and balanced life.
So how does that idea of dharma affect what Karna chooses?
Well, for Karna, his dharma lies in staying loyal to Duryodhana, the prince who accepted him, even if it means giving up his blood family and that chance to be recognized as a prince.
That's a powerful statement about integrity, sticking to your values, even when it's hard. I gotta say, I'm surprised. He could easily gone with his brothers, finally gotten what he'd always wanted.
It would have been the easy choice, right? But that's not Karna. He chooses the right path, even though it leads to tragedy. Remember, this is an epic, and epics often have that element of fate and tragedy in them.
Makes sense. So knowing it ends badly, does that make Karna a fool? Or is there a bigger meaning to his sacrifice?
That's a question the poem really makes you think about. On the surface, yeah, it might look foolish. But through what Karna gives up, Rashmirathi shows us that heroism isn't always about winning or getting ahead. Sometimes it's about doing what's right, even if it costs you.
That's deep. Like, true fulfillment comes from doing the right thing, not from success or fame. But knowing the outcome, it's still hard not to feel for him. How does the poem handle his death?
It's a mix of sadness, and this sense that it was inevitable. Karna's death is portrayed as this heroic sacrifice, him living out his dharma to the very end.
I see.
He dies in battle, fighting for what he believes in, knowing he can't win.
Bittersweet for sure. Does the poem give any comfort, any hope with all this tragedy?
Yes, in a way. Remember that line from the end we talked about? Freeing the shackles of desire, my soul soars high, embracing the vast expanse of the universe.
Yeah, I remember.
Even though Karna's story ends in tragedy, his spirit is free.
Like his true self is finally unbound from the world. It's almost like his death makes him transcend everything. It makes you think, even in loss, there can be peace, beauty.
You got it. And that brings us back to what the poem's really about. Rashmirathi isn't just one guy's story. It's about all of us, fighting injustice, wanting to be seen, and ultimately finding meaning and purpose that goes beyond things that don't last.
It's incredible that we can still connect to that all these years later from a totally different culture.
That's the magic of great art. It crosses all those boundaries, time, language, culture, to speak to something universal inside us all.
So true. Well, we've covered a lot, from Karna's internal battles to the whole cultural and historical context. Thanks so much for taking this deep dive with me and for sharing your expertise on Rashmirathi.
My pleasure. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for this amazing poem and what it still has to say.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.